Completing a Stuart triple expansion engine, part 55. Setting the timing of the low and high pressure cylinders. For the high pressure cylinder, I used 2 individual eccentric sheaves, which made the job a lot easier. I made a gasket for the high pressure cylinder steam chest cover and started at last to run in the engine on the bench. In this clip I'm checking the timing of the slide valve in the low pressure cylinder. As you can clearly see, the entire low pressure cylinder and steam chest and valve are much larger than on the high pressure cylinder. I didn't make split eccentrics for this one, I used the ones with the 15-degree offset. And once again it was a bit of a compromise, but I think it should be okay. When setting the valve timing on a steam engine that has reversing valve gear, you really do need to remember which way the engine is going to be rotating as you adjust the position of the slide valve. After all these years, I still get confused with this sometimes. In the case of the low pressure cylinder, I only have one grub screw to clamp the pair of eccentrics to the crankshaft. It's really a case of trial and error, getting them both as near as you can. You can tell when you've got the right setting though, generally, because the engine runs. And for me it is very easy to go into obsess mode. In these clips you're watching, these are several attempts at adjusting the position of the double eccentric just using one grub screw. Finally, by turning it too much and then turning it too little and going in the wrong direction, I think I got it right. Or at least near enough for jazz and rock and roll. Here I'm tightening the eccentric for the final time, I hope. What I'm doing here is giving the engine a test rotation and observing where the slide valve is in the steam chest, and it doesn't look too bad. By the look of this valve setting, I think the engine will run slightly better in one direction than the other. But I think the difference, particularly because it's the low pressure cylinder, will be minimal. Time now to refit the low pressure cylinder's valve chest cover. If you look carefully at this cover, you can see there are some blowholes in it. That is relatively unimportant. It's time now to move to the high pressure cylinder. I will increase the speed of the video while I remove all of these 7BA nuts. And now you can see the slide valve inside the cylinder. This has been adjusted to pass equidistantly over the ports, and I've set the timing so that steam admission is slightly after top dead centre, because when I put it before top dead centre it's really difficult to get it to start. Triple expansion engines are slightly different to other steam engines. The high pressure cylinder steam chest needs a gasket between the steam chest and the cover, so now very quickly, using my time-worn method, I'm making a gasket. I hold the cover firmly down onto the gasket and use that as a template to drill the holes in the gasket material. It is really important to make sure that the gasket does not move relative to the steam chest cover when you're doing this. Otherwise the holes all end up in the wrong place. Whenever I make gaskets for steam chest covers, I always cut out the centre part. You can leave it in place because it's not interfering with anything until it starts to break down and fragment and drop bits of gasket into the steam chest, which could, in the worst case scenario, block one or more of the ports. After marking out the gasket, all I now have to do is cut on the lines using a very sharp knife. Then carefully press out the part of the gasket that I don't need. And now it's top tip time. This is a very useful and very simple tip. Before fitting the gasket, use a felt tip pen to just mark the edges, because normally the edges of gaskets are a light colour and they look a bit horrible when they're fitted. But when the edges of the gasket are black, you can hardly see them. In this clip I noticed that one side of the steam chest cover has been marked with a felt tip pen when I drew around it. This is very easy to remove using a piece of Scotch-Brite. It's time now to refit the steam chest cover, but there's a problem. One or two of these studs are a bit on the short side. I notice when I look at the studs that are used on these engines that the thread at one end is longer than the other, and it's the shortest part of the thread that goes into the casting. By doing it this way, it makes sure that all of the studs are exactly the same length. Well, almost anyway. Really, I should replace all of these studs with new ones because I think some of these are not commercially made studs that you buy from Stuart. But out of respect for the initial builder of this engine, I think I'll leave them just the way they are. Now it's time to oil every moving part, because I'm going to run the engine for a prolonged period. Currently it's quite tight, but very soon it should ease off a little and become a lot looser. I'm not going to speak in the running sequences. That's more like it. The question is though, does it also run in reverse? And if so, does it run okay in reverse? Up to now the engine's been sat on my soundboard workbench. Now I'm sitting it on a rubber mat on top of a piece of Scotch-Brite, so you can really hear what the engine sounds like without the amplification of the mechanical noise. Well, that's good. I ran it at this speed for quite a long time and nothing's fallen off yet. I wonder what it sounds like when it runs in reverse. After running the engine for quite a while in both directions, it's feeling a whole lot better because it's now running in, or as you call it in the USA, braking in. Either way, it's running a lot better. For the first time with this engine, I'm now happy with the way it runs. Once it's finished and all the cladding is in place, I'm going to build it into a marine steam plant using this beautiful Scotch return tube boiler. That's the plan anyway, health permitting. It won't be in this series, it will be in another one. I've just had a thought. I will probably call the series Making a Stuart Triple Expansion Engine Steam Plant. But that won't be for a while because I do have some other jobs that are more than outstanding now. I'm going to finish those first. That's it for this episode. Stay safe, stay healthy. Thanks for watching and I hope you found it useful. Please take the time to visit my Mainsteam Models website and click on the section of the website that says Video Playlists. And by doing that you can find other videos that you may like to watch. And by using the playlists, you can actually watch the videos back to back.